Today, I'm speaking with Jeff Gold from the Event Service Group. He's a partner in charge of sales. He's also the current MPI President for South Florida. Fascinating journey in our industry, very inspiring. Love the grit, the perseverance, and the success he's having. Enjoy the conversation with Jeff. Hello, and welcome to a new episode of the Business of Meeting podcast. And today, I have the great pleasure of speaking with a friend, a legend in the meetings and event industry here in South Florida. He's a partner at the Event Service Group. His career's journey is very inspiring. It's a story about grit, about perseverance, about our industry. He would not say that he's a partner. He would tell you he's a partner because he's coming from North. Ladies and gentlemen, the one and only Jeff Gold. Jeff, how are you?
I'm excellent, Eric. Thank you so much for having me today. And I am a partner. I'll say it the right way. I'm a partner in Event Services Group and a senior sales manager.
That's awesome. We know each other for years, actually. And it's only recently you got the chance to speak with each other and one-on-one. And that, again, speaking to the value of face-to-face meetings. And I was really impressed with your journey. So, yes, we're going to speak about what it is to own a business in our industry today. But before that, I would love to ask you to share your journey, people listening and watching, because I think it's really inspiring. So what is Jeff Gold's journey?
Wow. Well, it's a journey that I call a roller coaster ride. Now, if you wrap your head around the concept of roller coaster ride, you know you got the ups and downs of things. And I'm sure that kind of resonates with everybody who's even listening to the podcast here today, because everybody's got that path. There's a roller coaster ride in everybody's life. You know, I grew up in very humble beginnings back in Long Island, East Meadow, Long Island. If you have any Strong Island fans on your podcast, I'm reaching out to you guys. What's up? You know, but grew up in East Meadow, Long Island. And I think the beginning part of me kind of understanding even what the event world was and meetings and special events and things like that really started at about, I would say, 6 years old, believe it or not. You know, there are certain things that are put in our path of life, you know, that resonate within our DNA that kind of sets a little bit of a path. You know, when I was 6 years old, you know, I was encouraged to pick up a trumpet. You know, so when I picked up the trumpet, I'm like, you know, I'm a kid, you know, what is this thing? I'm just going to make loud noises, you know? So I wound up picking it up. And of course, my mom, who was, you know, she's passed away a long time ago when I was 20 years old, but she's always remained a hero in my life. But she really encouraged me to grab that trumpet. And then, you know, at school back in Long Island, you had elementary school, you know, and you had a band teacher, and he taught me the rules and the rules of the road with playing trumpet. Long story short, I became very good. Somehow, some way, God was on my wings, showed me a path of how to play the trumpet. And I didn't realize how good I was until they started throwing me in front of these, you know, jazz bands and symphonic bands by the time I was 9 years old. By the time that happened, you know, I started playing trumpet. I was a gimmick little kid with a fedora hat, a lot more hair on my head. And then I came out, I started playing trumpet in front of these people, and they would, yeah, go, Jeff. And they would give me all that. So the power of engagement with an audience, I was seeing at a very young age, and it resonated on me. I was like, I kind of like that. You know, when people are like, this is great, you're super cool. I'm like, I didn't know what I was just doing what I was taught to do. And then, you know, as time went on, I started becoming very, very prevalent in New York playing trumpet. And I grew up in the industry where I played, you know, with different kind of bands, symphonic bands, jazz bands, marching bands, you name it. I was asked to do all this kind of stuff, and I loved it. You know, it was organically in my blood, but I was always intrigued by how an audience kind of reacted to that. Fast forwarding the hands of time, when I was graduating high school, my mom threw me and my twin sister, Randy, and my brother, Glenn, a graduation party. I graduated, of course, with my twin sister, Randy, and then my brother was graduating college. His name is Glenn. And so it was a big surprise graduation party. My mom happened to hire a DJ and an MC to, you know, do this event. And I'm like, it was a surprise party. So me and my sister, we come to the house in East Meadow, Long Island. And I go at the house, I'm like, there's so many cars on the street. Where is everybody? And it turns out they're in my backyard in East Meadow. Go back there, surprise, congratulations. And we got all that kind of kudos. I'm like, super cool. We had a good time. So then I think the fork in the road over here is coming right now. So I was always playing trumpet, and I'm in my senior year of high school. And then what had happened was there was a phenomenal MC. His name was Matt Levy. And Matt and the DJ was Joey D. I'll never forget the guy. It was a company out of New York, Heart to Heart Productions at that time. They did a phenomenal job. Long story short, there was a point in the party where people really weren't dancing because this guy, Matt, was amazing, getting people on a dance with charismatic ability, getting people out of the chairs, making them scream, shout, clap, dance, all the kind of stuff that a great MC really does. So the point in the party, to be honest with you, I had some champagne. I was 16, 17, whatever I was. Got a little bit of the microphone wheels on. And I said, give me that mic. He goes, why? I'm like, I want to get everybody dancing. He goes, all right, dude, here's the mic. Here's the mic. I always have a microphone on my desk. So I grabbed the mic and I just got on the microphone. I said, what are you guys doing? Sitting down, everybody get up on the dance floor. Somebody scream, yeah. I saw something came over me where I saw another light in the affirmation world, because everybody loves affirmation, but the affirmation in my world was always like, you're so talented, that was so cool, and things like that. So now I pivoted to emceeing. I put the trumpet aside. I really wish I kept on playing trumpet and MC. That would have been epic. So fast forward in the hands of time, I started working for this company in New York, Heart to Heart. Richie Hart, founder of that, amazing. So went into that side of entertainment. Didn't know that I was actually really kind of good at that. And then until I started getting on the microphone. But then I started getting on the microphone and then doing all these big events in New York and things like that. And it took me throughout college. All right. So I was emceeing. So it was a little, kind of a charismatic ability thing into a dancer, into the whole showmanship, started, coming into my DNA. And I had a lot of encouragement by my New York friends and things like that, the guys that I were working with over in Heart to Heart. And then throughout college, I did that. And then the next pivotal moment in my life, my mom passed away. So as we had, spoke, my mom was my hero. She still remains, my hero to this day. But when she passed away, there was the wings were pulled out from underneath my arms. Everything was in complete shutdown mode. I had the talent of doing that, and it took me throughout college. And literally, I paid for my own college because I was emceeing these phenomenal events in New York. But when she had passed away, I'm like, there's no way I can get on the microphone and smile and do all that kind of stuff. I'm just done. And then I spoke to my brother, Glenn, who was a DJ for the company at the time. I'm like, man, I got to get out of here. I said, I love what I do as an MC. I said, let's just move down to Florida. Let me go and see what's going on in Florida. And then, the edited version of that is my brother said, you know what? Great. Let's put a little bit of money together. And then you go down there, check it out, and see if you can make this thing happen. Long story short, I wound up going in a hotel, asking, hey, can you please look at this? It was a VHS tape. And one lady, after 20 catering directors that I met with, I was 21 at the time, 21 years old, a lot more hair on my head. And it turns out I was sitting with the president, unbeknownst to me, the president of the National Association of Catering Executives, and now it's catering events, I think. And her name was Diane Moran. And I was just broke kid, begging for a job. And she goes, listen, I love your video tape. I'm like, really? Everybody's shutting the door in my face. It was the New York concept, by the way, of the interactive disc jockey entertainment, where you had the MC with charismatic ability, a phenomenal DJ. The music was phenomenal. The dancers were out there, hands are up in the air, the scream, shouts, and all that kind of stuff. The energy that we brought was very infectious. And this one catering director said, man, if you do that, what you're doing on that tape, that could work here in Florida, because there was nothing at that time. It was back in 1990. I'm sorry, I'm aging myself. So I go ahead and she says to me, she goes, do you know who I am? I said, yeah, you're Diane Moran. You're the catering director here at this hotel. She goes, no, do you know the other thing that I do? I'm like, I have no idea. I'm sorry. I'm just a young kid trying to make it. And she goes, I'm the president of the National Association of Catering Executives. I'm like, what is that? I didn't know. I didn't know what it was. She goes, and it was September of 1990. And she says to me, we're planning our holiday event. Do you want to do the holiday event in front of all these caterers? Really? Can I do that? She says, yes, but you got to do it for free. I'm like, I don't want to do that. I'm already broke. Anyways, we did it. I told my brother up in New York, he flew down. And then I went to, gosh, honestly, Eric, you're going to laugh. I went over to these like clubs in town. And back when clubs were clubs, and I was looking, I needed dancers. So I pulled dancers. I'm like, you got a great look. You got some charismatic ability. I brought them into my little, it was like 500 square feet, a little apartment in Davie, Florida that I rented. I literally pulled the mirror off of my bathroom into the little living room. And I was teaching these people that I pulled out of these clubs. When I do this, you're going to be just following me on this whole thing. Get into the groove, smile, shout, all that kind of stuff. Eric, it worked. They're like, are we going to get paid? I'm like, are you going to get paid? Like, would you take $50? They're like, you're going to pay us $50 to go to a party? We're in. I'm like, amen. Okay. So I spent all my money on that one job. The next thing is now we did this job, the holiday event, 1990. All the caterers were there. They're like, what the hell is this whole thing? I'm getting people up on the stage. They're singing. They're clapping their hands. I had a knack for pulling the adolescent out of the adult. If you really think about it, Eric, we all have in your case, the boy within Eric. I have the boy within Jeff. We also have the adult Eric that controls the boy. And I have the adult Jeff that controls the boy. But when I'm able to get into a 70-year-old and make them feel like they're 20 again, a 50-year-old and make them feel like they're 20 again, even a 20-year-old feeling like I belong here, I was able to get that with all the words that I was saying, what we were doing musically, combined with what I was saying on the microphone, the dancers in the audience, and making people feel like they are just having a great time, getting involved, doing silly things like remember Shout back in the days? You make me want to shout. I'm aging all of us. But anyways, I get people on the floor, kicking their legs up in the air. Anyways, that was the beginning of the next thing of my life. That was the next phase. So I took it extremely seriously, but I didn't know where this was really going because the phones were ringing off the hook. All the catering, they all got business cards, and now the phones are ringing. I'm like, well, what am I going to do with this whole thing? So then I created my own group, and then the group did very well. One of my top MCs or top dancers, his name is George Valentine. George was my side guy. And I'm like, man, we need to make you an MC because we got to duplicate this group. So then those two groups were selling out. I'm fast forwarding ahead. We duplicated those two groups. Now there are 4 groups. Then we went from 4 groups to 8 groups, up to 9 groups. And the company was called Platinum Gold Entertainment, the most sought after interactive disc jockey entertainment company from 1990 through probably, 2015. It was a really long run. So
what was the number? Because you rightly said earlier on that, to take the example of a roller coaster. And that's exactly what the life of an entrepreneur is. Regardless of the industry, there is no one that started and then went straight line to, selling the company or whatever it is. But first of all, you decided to duplicate yourself. And that, I think, is a very important lesson for anybody who's listening. How many times are we thinking, no, it's my brand, it's my company, nobody does it better than I do? You cannot grow a company with that type of mindset. So you shift that and you hire more people. But until that, and when you had all those different MCs at the same time, what was, you told me, I can't remember, the number of events that you run in one weekend at some stage?
And so the Platinum Gold brand, we started off doing a lot of bar mitzvahs, and we became really stereotyped for doing bar and bat mitzvahs. And we were great at it. Plus, I'm a nice Jewish boy from Long Island, so I kind of get the whole religious side of it. So, can you rephrase that question?
No, I just wanted to, because you told me it was impressive, the number of events, of gigs that you had in one weekend at once.
So, yeah, at once. So the bar mitzvah brand became so prevalent. We started there was one point where the company was going so big, we were doing 40 bar mitzvahs in a weekend.
40.
So what happened was each group, 9 groups, they were doing a Saturday afternoon bar mitzvah into a Saturday night bar mitzvah, waking up on Sunday morning, doing Sunday afternoon bar mitzvah into a Sunday night bar mitzvah. Or it'd be Friday night, Saturday afternoon, Saturday night, Sunday, and then Sunday night. By the time Monday rolls around, we all are completely shot, like dead. Like my voice was gone all the time, and we were doing 40 successful bar mitzvahs.
I didn't even know there were so many rabbis, let alone for one weekend.
Well, we were killing it down in Dade County, Broward County, and Palm Beach County. Those were
Amazing.
our areas. So it really was, and the struggle was real. You know, when you're going that much and you're getting physically exhausted, mentally exhausted, and also don't forget, and anybody who's watching this podcast, when you're dealing with that amount of people and that amount of personalities and people who are creative and have artistic ability, you're dealing with the personality traits. Like, for example, if they got a fight with a boyfriend, I'm like, leave the drama at the door. You know, Jared Cohen's bar mitzvah is not going to kick off with you being boohoo, you know, because you broke up with your boyfriend last night. So we also had to be therapists. So me and my brother and George Valentine, who was prevalent in our company, also became partner. We actually had to do these things, you know, to be a little bit of a therapist, you know, kind of walk people off the cliff of the roller coaster ride of their own life and get you back up on right over here so you can be the best performer for what this event was all about.
No, so you build this company, you grow this company, you're at the peak of it. And there's also, as any entrepreneur, the risk of being burnout. And then fast forward a few years, I think the transition is also very interesting. Why and how did you incorporate your own company in a larger group? What was the thinking process into that? And what the decision-making process say, you know what, this is the best thing for the company and this is the best thing for me?
You know, this is a great topic to be had, Eric, and I'm really, really happy and grateful for this conversation because I know deep down somebody is going to get something out of this because there are forks in the road of life. And what I have found throughout the forks in the road of my life, I didn't fight it, I invite it. There was a time where I was like, change, I don't know about change, it's not going to be good, what is going to happen, the risk, blah, blah, blah. But I didn't fight it, I invited it. But I didn't know what I was getting into. But anybody who's watching this podcast right now is when you're not going to take the risk, you're never going to know. You know, you got to have that kind of inner, like the thick skin to make a certain move in life. So it was a tough one for me because I think it was around about the year 2012 that I started going out and I started networking myself for corporate events because we were stuck in the bar mitzvah world. We were killing it with the bar mitzvahs, great, loved it, but we were killing it over there, killing myself. But I would then go to an organization called MPI, Meeting Professionals International. But now I've been a member of Meeting Professionals International for over 2 decades at this point. But I was very well networked. But every time I would walk up to somebody and say, hey, you know what, I want to do that corporate event or that incentive program. They'd be like, yeah, that's great, Jeff, but you're the bar mitzvah guy. I'm like, no, I can really do it. We can really get into the corporate events. We got phenomenal DJs. I can get up on the microphone, you know, introduce, you know, keynote speakers and all that stuff. Jeff, great, but no, you're the bar mitzvah guy. I'm like, oh my God, I needed to do something. So something drastic had to happen. So about 2012 to 2014-ish, I really said to, you know, my partners, and at that time, man, I got to do something, you know, to get out of the bar mitzvah stereotype because the corporate events were really kind of where I wanted to start heading. So I know this gentleman, Wayne LaBush, for many, many years. Wayne LaBush was very good in the wedding business and he had his corporate events, but also he had, you know, a great presence in the casino market. So there were certain things I found very attractive about that, but I was very grateful for Wayne. There's a million different reasons why I can really be grateful for Wayne and his partner, Alex Anta. They saw something in me and I saw something in them that they chose to go and take a risk on me. And I chose to bring the Platinum Gold brand into their company, which is Event Services Group. So they owned a lot of companies at that period of time. But I said, man, I created the Platinum Gold name with my brother, you know, from scratch. And I would hate to lose the name, and people knew the name and all that kind of stuff. And finally I said, here's that fork in the road. I'm like, I'm going to bring the Platinum Gold brand into Event Services Group and let it kind of hover, like even on your TV screen, kind of hover, not over here, but hover kind of right about there. It doesn't even, it kind of peek up like that kind of thing when it needs to, because the Platinum Gold brand was so prevalent for the bar mitzvahs that the corporate events were not even looking at me. So when we changed that, corporate events started looking at me a little bit differently, and we still kept the branding of, well, the concept of the interactive disc jockey entertainment mindset, But now I was able to now go more into decor, more into printing, more into video photography. It all opened up into all of the event elements. And that was the pivotal part. So anybody who's watching this podcast, I'd like to encourage not to fight it. You got to invite it. If you really kind of want to go pivotal in your world and you want to expand to the next level, it's a nail biter. There's no question about it. It's a nail biter. Anybody, Eric, you've done business for all of your life. You told me your stories from, Belgium and then into the US. I mean, you've got an epic story. Like, I'm impressed with what you've done. A guy coming from a whole other country and making it so nicely in this world. Kudos to you, my man. And same concept, even over here. We go into these scary things with a nail, biting your nails. What are we going to do? And so it worked out. But, thank God for my great business partners here, Wayne and Alex, and one of our other partners, Richard. They took on they were okay with blending what I had into their brand, and then things started going in from there.
That's awesome. And when I visited the location you have, which I would like, it's so impressive, all the things in one place. But I think what you just said is very important for any business person, is to have the vision of what you want to be building. I always say, personally, I want to have three things in whatever I do. I want to have fun with the people I'm working with. I want to make a difference, and I want to be fairly compensated. And if one is missing, I'm not happy. If two are missing, I'm gone. And the problem is that I think a lot of people will choose misery over uncertainty, and will stay in a place where they're not happy, or stay in a place where their business is not having the opportunity to grow. So what you did is having that vision and seizing the opportunity. Now, when you have different partners, whether it is business partner or like a many business in our industry, when you have the spouse working together, if you don't have a clear vision and a clear responsibilities, then it's not working.
Right. And actually, that's a very good point to be had, because as you're, when I embarked into partnering up with a event services group, until there was a lot of times at the beginning when you're first starting something, kind of figuring it out, but you have a plan, but the plan is, we want to take this path to go this way, but that comes into play, and this comes into play, and that comes into play. But like I said, don't fight it, invite it. So we're looking at all these things that are coming into our way, and what we have found is every time something came up, and I'm going to give this one to Richard, one of our partners here. Richard navigated the world of standard operating procedures, because as you are growing, standard operating procedures became paramount, because when you grow, you need operational scenarios that you have to follow. So the train is on a track, and anybody who's in the world, even if you're a newbie coming into the company, here's a standard operating procedure. Read this, come back to me, and I'm going to test you. As they're following standard operating procedures, it could start at one, and then it could go into 1,000 standard operating procedures. I mean, and at this point, our company has grown. We're 68 people full time. When I first joined Event Services Group, we were probably about maybe 15, 16 now, and we're probably in maybe 4,000 square feet. We're in over 30,000 square feet with 68 people full time. It's not a bragging thing. All it is I want to impress your audience to know that the struggle was real. And audience, please understand, as you keep on growing and you have this plan, this business plan that you're doing, standard operating procedure. What does this look like? Because there's going to be a day where you, audience, whoever's looking at this thing, you need to be working on your business, not in your business.
And amen. Absolutely. The number of time when I'm telling that with the people I'm helping, that's for sure. Let me reemphasize two things you said. I think that's very important. The first one is, you need to have a plan. And quite frankly, I ran, I don't know how many hundreds of projects in over 50 countries in 20 years. There was not one project that was executed exactly the way it was planned. But when you have a plan, at least you can react. And the second thing, you're talking about standard operating procedures, the SOPs, whatever the operating system you're using, that's the only way you can grow. And if you want to stop the hamster wheel of going from one project to another and be building a team and be building a company, you need to have those. And I would even encourage anybody who's listening to do that, even if you're a solopreneur. As soon as you want to have at least one other person doing some of the things that you're doing, if you haven't showed them, if you haven't told them what to do and how to do it, you're not going to grow. And when you have those processes in place, when you're filming yourself doing something and build this operating system, then you can start growing. Then you can start setting the standard of what you expect from people. So when you say that the new person's coming and this is what they should be learning, that's really how you're growing. And I'm sure that somebody like you or me, which is more on the sales side, it's kind of counterintuitive to start doing standard procedure, but that's the only way to grow.
Right. And it's interesting that you're saying that, because I mean, as you go into standard operating procedures and your business is really growing, I have found that the terminology of staying in your lane became prevalent, because when you start dipping into other people's lanes, then things get diluted. Because I am also in sales. I'm the senior sales manager here in the company, and I do a tremendous amount of sales. I work with a lot of the DMCs, the corporate event planners and things like that. But when you are jumping into somebody else's lane, like for example, if I went into our fabrication department and started telling them how to, to use the CNC router, I'm out of my lane, I'm out of my element, and it's getting muddy on not only that side, but also on now what I'm not doing. If I'm jumping into another lane, I'm not selling anymore. So I'm hurting the company without revenue generating scenarios. So it's important that anybody who's watching this understand that once, as the company starts building, and you give a task to a certain, team member, of course, you always have to oversee certain things, but if they're following a standard operating procedure, you already taught them how to do it, and you can stay in your lane knowing that the standard operating procedure is in place. Now, when that's deviated, then the accountability part of the standard operating procedure kicks in, because accountability has got to be a prevalent scenario. Without the on your hand or out of your pocket or whatever that looks like, then there's no real accountability. You know what I'm saying? So I will tell you that, like, even with me, Richard runs our company. Richard runs all of, he creates the standard operating procedures with Haley, our operations manager, and things like that. There are people in this company who are creating these standard operating procedures based upon not only the successes of what we've done, but more so how we failed along the way. Because in the standard operating procedure, we're learning all the stuff that we have failed on, that now in the standard operating procedure, it mitigates any type of failures along that way. Does that make sense?
Yep.
So, and then also, with anybody watching this, if you do want your company to grow and things like that, these standard operating procedures are going to be paramount. I witnessed it firsthand, because when I first started, here, there was no standard operating procedure. There was nothing in writing, maybe just a little bit of a code book, and that was it.
Yep.
So once we created that procedure, then we were able to grow with confidence. And lastly, with the standard operating procedure, everybody on this podcast should know, one day somebody is not going to be working for you anymore, unless they're a partner or whatever, even if they're a partner, whatever that looks like. So the standard operating procedure is going to be handed off to the next person in line, where you're not retraining the person again. And like you said, I'm going to steal your words, Eric, being on a hamster wheel. You don't want to be like, oh, let me show you again and again and again. And now you're not focusing in your lane. You're now retraining somebody else. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely. Now, one thing that I'd like to touch on, especially based on your experience, and it's about sales. So even if you're a solopreneur, if you have 30, 50, 100 employees or people working with you and contractors, it doesn't make any difference. You need to have sales. And a lot of people said, I don't like sales. Well, you know what? Any company of any size need a face. So somebody needs to be the face of the company. And if you're the entrepreneur, I would offer that you're probably the one who should be it. From the moment you're starting to do sales, what is your advice for people looking to expand their company? What is your sales approach that you think that they can benefit from your experience?
It's a great question, and there's so many layers to sales. I think, touching upon a couple of key factors in my mind, Eric, is people don't like to be sold; they like to buy. You know what I'm saying? They don't want to sit and be sold, but they do like to buy. So what's the solution, the key ingredient on that? Education. Like, for example, if you're coming to me, Eric, and you're saying you're having a corporate event for your, let's say, 500 of your top salespeople coming into town and they're staying at one of these beautiful properties here in South Florida, I would actually move forward with more of, connectability. Like in my world, I'm not really jumping into, here's what we can do for you. That's selling. And that's just not the way I would approach it. In my world, I think connectability is going to be paramount first. Now, granted, some people, they just want to get to it and things like that. So in the networking world, which I'm prevalent in, if anybody on your podcast is familiar with MPI, which is Meeting Professionals International, I know that you are for sure. I am the current South Florida president of MPI. It's done in a way where I love teaching people and giving back. And when you're teaching people and giving back, sales starts coming along the way, because you do business with people that you know and trust. Yep. So that's somebody who's going to educate you and not, jumping into your hip pocket and pulling out the cash that you got there. So I found that, getting to know people in my networking scenario has been great. And then you kind of get to know what they need in their events. So then you kind of chit chat about, educating them on, certain solution scenarios versus selling scenarios. Well, this might be a good idea. For an impactful entrance, maybe why don't you think about doing something like this? When you're starting to educate, then putting those visions in people's mind, then the sale is going to come along that journey. So I am going to encourage your audience always to try and have the connectability factor. I'm really going to encourage your audience as much as you possibly can to get out of the office and go to these networkers, be in front of people, shake their hands. Eric, you and I come from pretty much the same generation where, remember, a handshake used to be the first thing in line. Right. Then you take it from there. So I found that to be two very powerful, impactful factors: connectability, educate, and then the sale will come along that journey.
I love it. You said something that's very important to me, and I think that people should remember that, is that people buy from people. And there's an interview of Jeff Bezos from Amazon that I love. The journalist asking him, what is going to change in the next 10 years that you are preparing the company for? Okay. And interestingly, he said, I'm actually looking at what is not going to change. People are not coming to tell me, I want to buy something that deliver it in 10 days instead of tomorrow. People are not going to tell me, Jeff, this is too cheap. You have to increase your price. That is not going to change. People will always want to have fast delivery and the best prices. And now I go back to our industry. People buy from people. People buy from people they trust. And despite AI, despite technology, despite everything, which is wonderful to use, right, that element to me is not going to change. So to your point of looking at people and educating people, I think even there's another very important point you mentioned that I really want to emphasize, because that's where you can position yourself differently. And everybody's always complaining about having the seat at the table. Well, if I go to you and you're the head of sales of company XYZ, and I say, Jeff, how many people are coming to the sales meeting? Do you want a welcome cocktail? Do you want a farewell dinner? I'm positioning myself in the box of the logistical specialist. And don't get me wrong, you would expect that the logistic will be delivered. But if I come to you instead and say, Jeff, I understand that in your industry, those are the main challenges, that your competitors so-and-so doing that. Why is it that you're doing the sales meeting now? What type of message do you want to convey? How do you want the people to feel afterwards that are going to help your company? I am positioning my services in a completely different way than going just about the logistics. And that's also a change of mindset.
Right. I agree. And, in my world, kind of translated what you were just saying, with the terminology, I call it ammunition. So, when you're in a sales situation, you can call it needs assessment, but I also call it ammunition. Like for example, let's say you're the meeting planner and you're a meeting planner for a large corporation incentive program coming into South Florida. I keep on bringing that topic up. So one of the first things that I kind of allude to is I ask them one of my most prevalent questions. At the end of the day, let's say your entire program was all set and done. It was a huge success, thumbs up all the way. Tell me about what you saw. That's it. Awesome. And then they go, they basically wrote the book. They wrote the book. But in my world, it was when you ask that question and they did the whole thing, because there's so many layers to that answer, because they already know they're dealing with X, Y, Z behind them, what the decisions are going to be based upon all the data that they've already gotten. So the data that they've already gotten is translating to the end result. So if I ask them that question, the end result is over here, they went, gave me all the stuff, and then boom, now I understand completely what you need. And then I say, that's fantastic, great, got it, no problem. But you know what? Would you be open-minded if I, can maybe share with you some embellishments, maybe some solutions, some things that you didn't even think about it. Everybody really wants to do something that hasn't been done. The wow factor that they would call it, or, the unique situation. And then guys like you and me, then we would come in with those key little ingredients that takes the sale over the top. And they're like, oh my God, that's the guy that I want to do business with. You got it not only this year, but you know what? If you knock it out of the park, which you will, you're going to get it next year. Then you create a retention rate, with these corporate events. And if it's going to be in Texas next year or California the year after that, then you're fortunate enough to be tagged along the way because you did such a paramount job the first time. Does that make sense?
Totally.
Ammunition. I love it.
Yeah. I love our conversation, Jeff. And it's a podcast, so unfortunately we cannot go for hours and hours, although I'd love to. I'd like to finish today by talking about volunteering. So you mentioned MPI. You're the outgoing now president of MPI in South Florida.
Current president. And
current president.
January 1st.
January 1st. Yeah, I'm sorry.
Be immediate past president. Yeah.
So you're in the middle of it.
Yeah.
So, I also was very involved in the past. I remember my grandfather would always say, because I was traveling, and he would say, "And they pay you?" I say, "No, but I'm getting so much out of it." So, what would you say to people in general that why they should be volunteering in an association? Why are you doing it? What are you getting out of it? And what are you giving to the association?
That's a great question, because I am the biggest advocate, for MPI, at least in the South Florida, because when I go to like these massive conventions at the WEC and things like that, everybody's MPI, let's go. But in my world, I think there is no downside by good camaraderie with event champions. And people who are in this world, I find that they're in there to educate and connect, not sell, not be bought, educate and connect. So the biggest part of my world, being the president of MPI, is the education part, because we have a whole beautiful education team, headed up by Melissa Acosta. She's our VP of Education, and Jerry Bell, the director. We put together all these beautiful education programs because people love to be educated. Once they're educated by people that really know what they're talking about, they approach them and then they buy from them because there's a connectability. So I think that also, I will tell you right now, my board of directors, some of us, we all hang out together, we create great friends, we count on each other. There's times where people, even on my board of directors or even through MPI, and They know we have a massive amount of inventory. I mean, I can have another hour on the amount of inventory that we have over here, but they would call us out of, oh my God, this weekend, we forgot to bring in their red carpets, or, lighting, or I need a videographer. I need whatever they need. No problem. Then they've got me on speed dial right here on the cell phone saying, we're in trouble, we need it. So I think that also being in a volunteer situation, you're also counting on each other, like get my back kind of thing, which has actually been really paramount, because I've actually pulled that string in the past. I know people on our board of directors have called me, people in our membership have called me. And then if we're able to do it, we jump through hoops. With it, in this networking association, MPI buys from MPI. So I know I can call somebody with an MPI and I can trust it. I can trust that, and I know I can get the fair price and all that kind of stuff. So there is the volunteer situation, and then there's the jobby job, the real job that you have. So there's two different things. You got your volunteer situation, and then you've got your jobby job. But the volunteer situation, when you're able to educate people and just, have connectability, then you're going to find sales will come along that journey. I'm encourage everybody, let's face it, when you're volunteering yourself, it's a selfless act. You're getting into a situation where you're able to help people, educate them, help them network. There are a lot of shy people out there. Like, even when I know people on MPI networkers where they're not approaching anybody. Hey, what's your name? I do the connectability. Who do you want to meet? Let me bring you around. Let me introduce you to people. And it works out when they're not only connecting, but they're also getting their ROI. They spent all this money on their membership and their monthly, to go to these things. Well, you got to get the ROI out of it. So I think volunteering has been great. Anybody on this podcast who can volunteer within whatever network you're in, or whatever, community that you want to be attached to, there's no downside. Don't look at it like, I can't wait to see how much business. My phone's going to ring all day long. It's not going to happen like that. Not from the beginning. You got to put a lot of time into it, connect with these people, and then you're going to start seeing business.
Absolutely. And I must say, I've never been to any MPI conference without meeting somebody new, getting a new idea, learning something new. And that's the beauty of it. Absolutely. Jeff, you never know who's listening. And so in closing, I would ask you, because somebody might be listening and help you with something, what is your dream? And what is that somebody's listening now who wants to help Jeff Gall could do, whether it's private, professional, doesn't matter. What is one of your dream that anybody listening might be able to help you with?
Well, it's a great question, because everybody's got various different dreams. I think that my most honest answer is this, Eric. My dream, I think, because I've been doing this since I'm 6 years old in the event world, kind of going full circle on this conversation. I have organically found inner peace with creating moments in time for people. Our business is all about that short, awesome experience. Because don't forget, like in the event world, even in the meeting world, it's only this amount of time. So in my dreams, I want all these moments in time for the people that we work for to walk away with a paramount experience. And I think that if I can stay consistent with my mindset on just continuing to elevate what I do to give people, businesses, corporations, whatever it may be, the most prevalent short blast of a time frame, then it's accomplishing, making my dream come true. That's really what it is. It's not a matter of growing the business anymore. To me, on a personal level, because you kind of put that ingredient in there in your question, it's important for me to always keep in mind that life is short. And if you take life and you start dissecting it into the world of small chunks, and if I can be in a certain chunk of that time and I made it the most paramount experience, the business will come. But my dream is to make those experiences more paramount as time goes on. And I think that is the best answer I can give you.
Awesome. You should be in sales.
But it's the truth, man. It's really, actually, you know what? That's probably why I'm pretty good at sales, because it's so important to be honest with yourself first, and then it kind of bleeds out of your skin.
Absolutely.
Yes,
Jeff, thank you so much for your time, and I look forward to seeing you again in person very soon.
All right, Eric, I'm very grateful for you having me on today, and I look forward to always checking in on your podcast. You're the best. Thank you, Eric.
Thank you. Jeff, thank you so much for spending the time speaking with me and sharing your journey. Absolutely love it. It's very inspiring. Ladies and gentlemen, if you want to connect with me, please do so on LinkedIn, and you can go to eventbusinessformula.com, where you will find a lot of resources for your business in the meetings and event industry. Thank you. Bye-bye.